Welcome in, everyone, to another Linux on Baseball live stream podcast. Glad you're with us. Hope your day is going well. And yes, this is the day after the election, although the election night coverage continues into another day. We're staying away from it here. We are talking baseball, and a privilege. Excited to welcome in today's guest for our Linux on Baseball live stream podcast, and it is Patrick Ebert. Patrick is a guy, and I've said this before, baseball is such that there are people. I feel like Patrick and I had a phone conversation. I feel like he's somebody who I know in terms of his back, because I've been reading his work with Perfect Game for many years. We have a couple of mutual friends, including Mike Rooney, who I've had on before. Patrick, thanks so much for taking a couple of minutes with us. How are you?
Doing great, Steve. It's good to be on here. Good to be talking baseball in November.
And that's, I don't know how much you followed last night. I followed it all through my work shift and fell asleep as they were saying that Donald Trump was going to speak and address the nation at about 2:30 Eastern this morning, falling asleep and dozing off on my couch. I got about 30 seconds into it and said, you know what? I'm going to bed. I'm going to get a couple hours here. But leading up to this and connecting with you, it's been, sometimes it's just enjoyable to push everything else aside, and baseball to me, and it's sort of a theme with some of the guests I've had on here live stream, is we just can sort of separate for a few minutes and talk baseball, and it's always brings a smile to our faces for the most part.
Oh, without a doubt. I think you bring up a good point about pushing other things aside, because thankfully for people like you and I, we get to push those things aside for a living, So, I mean, this is a professional endeavor we're doing here, pushing stuff to the side, talking about baseball, hopefully, enlightening some people and sharing that passion that we all have. That's one thing I've always noticed. People involved with baseball, more so than any other sport, have that common connection just because of the passion for baseball. And that's one thing that makes it so unique, so unmatched. And I'm not willing to give it up. So I hope I'm doing this for a long, long time.
And that's one of the questions I pose to people at the start. When did your passion with the game begin? When did you get introduced to the game and sort of start developing that love?
Yeah, so I was the late 70s. I actually moved to Wisconsin. I was born in Pennsylvania, and my dad had a work outing, and we went to County Stadium for a Brewer game. And the first player I fell in love with, him, still my favorite player to this day, is Cecil Cooper. And it's because the whole crowd, when he stepped to the plate, yelled "Coop." And me at, 5 years old, thought they were booing him. They thought, I turned to my mom, like, why are they booing him? They're like, they're not booing him. They're calling him Coop. And immediately I was hooked. And the rest of my life, shortly thereafter, my mom would take my brother and I to the grocery store. And if we did our chores, she'd let us get a pack of baseball cards. And we'd spend the rest of the day just looking through the cards, looking at the stats on the back, chewing that awfully delicious gum. And it was just a passion made very early on.
So did you emulate that batting stance when you were young?
Yeah, it's funny. I tried to, and I can't say that I did it very effectively, because I actually threw left-handed, but I batted right-handed. So I was more the Ricky Henderson comp as far as that go, but that's where that comp ends.
Okay.
But I actually coached a kid 2 years ago who batted exactly like Rod Carew. And anyone that knows like Rod Carew back in the day and that unique stance he had, and I went up to the dad, I'm like, did you teach him this? I'm like, because where did he get this? Because, if you're batting like Rod Carew, there has to be some influence. And I guess it was completely random. So, but no, I did not. I emulated Cecil Cooper in my bedroom, maybe a little bit outside, but never like in games or actual live situations.
That's great. I love that share on the young man. I was coaching my son's team a few years ago, and our number one pitcher, every time he came to a game and pitched, he was emulating a different guy that he had seen on TV. And finally, one night, I'm looking at him like, what is he doing here? all of a sudden everything was out of whack. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, and it was in a dugout, and I got the coaches next to me, and all of a sudden I dropped a holy, and I caught myself and said, bleep. He was trying to be Clayton Kershaw. And after the game, I asked him, who have you watched on TV this week? I said, before you answer that, I said, let me tell you who I think you've watched on TV this week. I said, Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers? He's like, yeah. I'm like, you can't do that one. That one's too tough.
Well, at least he wasn't trying to be Johnny Cueto, because then you never know which arm angle he's going to throw with.
Yeah, the release point and the arm angle, those were inconsistent for the 10-year-old, but he's still pitching. I can report happily he's still playing the game. So, as I said in the beginning, familiar with you for your great work with Perfect Game over the years.
Yeah.
In terms of again, getting back to the late 1980s, you shared with me, doing a lot of draft stuff, doing a lot of college baseball over the years. From where we are at present day, in this past Major League Baseball draft in June was just the 5 rounds. Are you still seeing the impact of guys that are returning to school here in the fall that weren't drafted, that had that opportunity to go back to their college programs or go somewhere else and play one more year at the college level?
Without a doubt. I've been talking to a few Big Ten schools, and all the coaches are telling me how deep their roster is. I mean, they're going too deep at almost every position on the field, and a lot of them are very hesitant to say who they're going to go with at certain positions or roles. And I think that's somewhat twofold, in that, one, they genuinely don't know who they're going to go with at certain positions, and that they still have some stuff to figure out, and a lot of their fall seasons were cut short or messed up just with the pandemic that's going on. But the other part of it too is I think they have to be careful what they say publicly, because they have so many different personalities they need to manage. And if I had to guess, a lot of them are concerned about some of these players transferring out and going, say, the JUCO route, or going to another school where they're guaranteed more playing time. Because you'd have to believe, most of these guys that are returning, that are proven productive players, are going to be the ones getting the lion's share of the playing time. But these coaches are put in a unique situation that they have to balance that. And it's so much more than just balancing just a team roster like you would normally, because you have to do it a lot more delicately moving forward. And you look at a team like Florida, who ended the year at number 1, at least as far as the top 25 that I was responsible for, and they got everybody back. And there was a reason they were number 1. They were good, and they were loaded with talent. That team looked a lot like the one we saw in 2017. And going into next year, if you don't have them number 1, you gotta ask yourself, well, why not? Why did you have them number 1 and then not have them number 1 to open the year? But there's gonna be so much talent at the college level. It's gonna be crazy. And I don't always say that as a good thing too, because there are going to be these student athletes that are going to lose out on playing time. And that part is the part that's, for me, from my perspective, is going to be the most disappointing.
Little connection there with Patrick. We'll this back here as well. I think we have you back now. Internet connection being what it is, I think it's more on my end. I do apologize for that. But Patrick, you mentioned going the JUCO route. It's interesting. It's certainly a viable option. And, in terms of the college game, we see D1 baseball and ESPN in recent years is really and something I've been able to be a part of. The JUCO route, it seems like it sort of peaks and valleys and ebbs and flows in terms of what it can do for not only a young man in terms of the development, so the ability to be draft eligible going that route, and rather going 3 years and having to commit to a 4-year program and having to play 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing it even at the College World Series, a team like the Rays that have players from JUCO, and not just the Rays. There's a lot of teams. The Rays were just a great example of this, of seeing teams with players from Division II schools, Division III schools, JUCO teams, Division I high school players. You have the international players. But it really shows you how many different ways you can construct your roster, and that's true at the college level as well. So these JUCO programs have some great coaches. They have some great evaluators. They have good programs. They have good facilities in place. And more players are taking advantage of that, and they're taking their talents to keep their options open because, you can transfer without having to sit out a year. You're eligible for the draft each of the 2 years or 3 years in some cases that you're at a junior college. And so when you package all that together for a player who really doesn't know where they fit in or what they want to do or when they want to re-enter the draft, especially a guy that, could explode, a guy that may be coming out of high school that just at the end of his senior year was really starting to peak and really started to reach his potential. He takes that to junior college and maybe he truly explodes that year, or maybe it's the year after that. So I think it's fascinating, and it will continue to be fascinating too, because there are going to be more and more players that are going to transfer out of the program they're currently in between now and next January. And we're going to see a lot more really good players at the junior college level. I've said for a while now, the two levels of baseball that stand to benefit the most from this pandemic is junior college and the independent leagues, because you're also going to see a lot of players looking for basically jobs now, and they can go to these independent leagues, semi-pro leagues, and continue to work on what they want. And you'll see more and more teams scouting those leagues as a result too.
So much of the unknown, and I think you alluded to it there. Where do you stand on the Appalachian League, which has been a part of minor league baseball for many, many years? Major League Baseball is trying to make some changes here, and now just in the last 10 days or so, and I sort of thought it was going that route, and the New York Penn League shares a special place in my heart, having worked for 3 teams and getting my play-by-play career underway in the Penn League. But, it seems like the New York Penn League is going to go that route as well, where those markets are going to be wood bat leagues in the future.
Yeah, I have no problem with more leagues opening up, summer collegiate leagues for college athletes. I have a couple different, I guess, concerns and problems with it, in that, one, you already saw a lot of different, I guess, entities, groups, organizations, people buying into the summer collegiate business model, so to speak. And it's because it can be very actually profitable, because you're not paying the players. The players stay with host families. You're not paying to put them up anywhere. You may have some meal stipends or stuff like that. But otherwise, you're pulling in a lot of gate money and concessions and merchandise and all those different things. And the overhead is so much smaller than it is for, say, like a minor league organization or even an independent league, like I mentioned before. So you saw this rapid growth of summer collegiate league pretty much since, I would say around 2005, 2008, 2010, in that area. And so what Major League Baseball is doing now is they're appointing the Appalachian League to be the official league of college freshmen and sophomores to continue their development before they get ready prior to the draft and go to play for Team USA or go to play for the Cape Cod League, which is, universally regarded as the most prestigious of the summer collegiate leagues. And they certainly have the history and the background to support that claim. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't really like that MLB is getting involved with this and stepping in and potentially stepping on toes, because what you're going to do is you're going to hurt the overall process. You're going to hurt the overall system. And I know it's the umbrella effect, right? Like, so here's Major League Baseball, here's everything else that falls underneath. And if you don't fall under that umbrella, you're on the outlying areas. And those are the entities that could be hurt the most. And it's not that they're trying to compete with Major League Baseball. They want their piece, they want their share of the prize, I guess. And they're part of that developmental journey. And I'm close to the Northwoods League here. It's in my own backyard in Wisconsin, and I've been involved with summer collegiate leagues very closely since working with Alan Simpson. And I don't like the premise for this being set up. I don't think it's a bad idea in theory, but I just don't like the principle.
Where are you right now in terms of optimism when it comes to the relationship between Major League Baseball and college baseball.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the more disappointing things for the season being canceled is we were going to have the draft in Omaha. And there were rumors of that for at least 5 years, if not longer. And they finally made it happen. And Major League Baseball had extended, to college baseball, the NCAA, several times to try to make something happen. And there's so many people on the college side that would complain that the draft was always being held when like super regionals were going on, or everybody had an anecdote of a player finding out they were drafted while they were on the field, and the blame was always pointed at Major League Baseball, and I don't think that's fair. I think the NCAA has to take a lot of that responsibility, and I'm not really saying blame needs to be doled out, but Major League Baseball seemed to be trying to figure something out, and college baseball didn't seem to be trying along with them. It was almost like college baseball said, this is when our games are going to be played. You work around us. And Major League Baseball took more of the opinion that, hey, if you're not willing to work with us, we're going to continue to set our draft on this date. So the two sides definitely need to work more. That, to your question, that is the number one thing they need to figure out to work together with, because obviously the bridge between college baseball and Major League Baseball and player development is so huge. Colleges are getting so much better at player development. That's become such a big part of the recruiting process. So the more that those two work hand in hand, it's better for everybody involved.
From that standpoint of college baseball really starting to develop players, can you envision college football guys? You're going to see them in the pros the next year. You might see a first-round pick starting a quarterback for an NFL team. Basketball, similar. A rookie can go in, drafted in June in a normal year, and have that presence and have an impact. Baseball, we know it used to be New York Penn League, the short season clubs to long season low A, long season high A, double A and up the ladder. With the ability of the schools now to develop talent at a higher level, can you see guys where it's okay, you're starting your pro career off from a 4-year program, you're starting at double A, and you're in the big leagues within 18 to 24 months, and it's rather it becomes more the rule rather than just that that random guy every once in a while?
If you would have asked me that a year ago, I would have said no chance, because I think that development time is so crucial. But what changed my opinion on that is we're actually seeing it in the major leagues, and we saw it this season. And we saw it with the designated camps that the teams had, and how aggressive they were to, get their top prospects at those camps regardless of the playing level. So, for those unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, like baseball has the minor leagues, you have AAA down to rookie level, and there's like 3 or 4 steps in between, and a player usually has to go step by step and reach certain categories or whatever statistical marks or whatever the case may be, or they just had to play well to move up. So now I think we're seeing teams being more aggressive, and they see these assets that they have, these players, and instead of waiting for them to bat 290 in the AA Southern League, they're like, all right, forget that, let's get them up. Let's try to see what they can do at AAA. Let's see what they can do at this camp. Let's see what they can do in the big leagues when rosters expand, and go from there. And when you have more and more success cases, other teams are watching that, and they're more likely to try the same with their organization.
Getting back a little bit to college coaches and the programs around the country that you've talked to here from the summer into the fall. I've talked to a couple of guys, and have you gotten a sense of, again, there's a fear of an unknown, but they've gotten at least some time on the diamond here in the fall, where you almost don't want to try to make up for lost time, but you have to go about it in a different way. And like you said, too deep at every position, there's only so much you can do in a limited amount of time here in the fall to sort of develop as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it makes for exciting competition. When I said that before, I think that's why college baseball is going to be so great, because now coaches are giving their players, even established players, healthy competition at their position or at multiple positions. So you may have, like a utility guy that plays third base, first base, left field, and and he's being, challenged at all three of those positions. So it forces that player to really focus and get better as a hitter, to get better as a defender, to get better as a teammate. And those are the types of things I'm hearing from the coaches very specifically, is that it's that healthy competition. And that healthy competition is going to bring a better brand of baseball to college baseball fields across the country. And that's, to me, what's most exciting.
You mentioned, Patrick, Florida and Coach O'Sullivan's program there. Vanderbilt, Tim Corbin. There's certain things from not having a full college baseball season in 2020 and, regional, super regionals, the College World Series. We missed out on Kumar Rocker. We missed out on Jack Leiter and Tim Corbin's program from this year.
Without a doubt. I think Kumar Rocker is the one player I think of, and just where he left off in 2019, when he was the most outstanding player in the College World Series as a freshman, leading Vanderbilt to another national championship. That can't be, you can't underrate that. Excuse me. You can't undersell that. There's no way. And, everybody can look for the players that they're watching, looking after and want to keep tabs with. But if Kumar Rocker isn't in your top 3 to 5 players that you want to watch, you probably weren't paying attention during the 2019 season. And what he did in that super regional game, and then what he did in 2 appearances in Omaha, I mean, that was just incredible. That's a great story. That's just great background. And we missed out. He missed out on that last year, and that's unfortunate. And I think bringing Jack Leiter into the conversation is good as well, because he very well could have been that next great Vanderbilt pitching prospect. And we had to wait a little bit. We had somewhat of an unfinished story, and he's going to have to pick up where he left off. And certainly Vanderbilt, when I talked about Florida, I think Vanderbilt's going to be in that picture as a team that's going to be ranked preseason top 3 to 5. And if they're not playing in Omaha come, June, July, whenever we're in Omaha, hopefully, it still does happen. I think that'll be a disappointment, and I mean, if I asked you the question, if Vanderbilt wasn't playing in Omaha come College World Series time, would you be disappointed? Because I think most people would say yes, unless you're an anti-Vanderbilt person in the SEC. I think most people want to see Kumar Rocker get another chance.
I don't know how you could be. I don't even know that I'd want to meet the person who would be anti-Tim Corbin and that Vanderbilt program the way he's built it up. Could you possibly see Rocker, Leiter 1-2 in next year's draft? Or do you think Leiter's further down the ladder?
No, I think definitely you could see those guys go 1-2. And in fact, I think some people are, I don't want to say predicting it, but where they have them ranked right now, they're both in the top 5. So yeah, it's certainly possible for them to go. And I think with Leiter, we just need to see him do it a little longer, right? So we need a full body of work to get a better understanding what he's about. How deep can he go in games is one thing, but how deep can he go into a season? Is he going to be just as effective come May, June, possibly July as he was, March, April? Because even remember, like Kumar Rocker, his first couple of starts to open the year, he wasn't as dominant out of the gate, but, he kept getting better. And that's really a tribute to Corbin and his staff and Vanderbilt and even Rocker for putting in that work. And Leiter's going to have to do the same thing.
Longtime contributor to Perfect Game. Always loved your work. Now doing some new things. You've created your own baseball website, TheGrindBaseball.com. Want to touch on that, but also you shared with me, and you've got a couple of articles already with D1Baseball.com. Talk first about the website, TheGrindBaseball.com, and what your goals are here in the next 6-12 months.
Yeah, so I've always been very passionate about player development. I think the game of baseball is and always will be about the players. So my site is to give those players a platform to tell some stories along the way, to shine some light on some players while to be perfectly honest, showcasing my talents and what I can do. Because, I can write. I have some, journalism background, both print and broadcast. I'm a graphic designer by trade. That's what has helped me pay the bills a good part along the way. my involvement with video editing and social media and those different things. So I kind of bring all those crazy things all together and have this website called TheGrindBaseball.com, and I'm very, very happy with the reception it's received to this point. And I've heard from people I've never met before. I've heard from people that I haven't talked to in 10 years, and I've been given some opportunities, and really, especially here in the Midwest, getting a foothold and getting myself more relevant in the game and keeping myself more relevant in the game. Because, like, as you started with, Steve, when you're in this game of baseball, you don't want to let go, and it's so very important. And I know we talked about this on the phone as well, and I'm not willing to give that up. I love this game too much. I think there's a lot of players out there fighting for their baseball lives, so to speak, and so am I. And I want to help share their stories along the way, and I think it brings a lot of joy to me, and I think it brings a lot of joy to other people as well.
You and I have very similar mindsets when it comes to the game, staying relevant and providing that content. I appreciate you taking the time with us. Look forward to continued success for you as you continue to build it. Want to stay in touch with you, and I appreciate your insight with us. Stay healthy for you and your family, and hopefully we can catch up down the road.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It was a lot of fun, Steve. Take care.
Patrick, thanks so much. Ebert, longtime contributor for Perfect Game, knows Darren Sutton, who I've worked with, knows Mike Rooney, who I've worked with, and Perfect Game is a great outlet for baseball, especially at the amateur level with the events that they do across the country. Like everyone else, adapting on the fly. And Patrick now landing on his feet with the website, TheGrindBaseball.com. Encourage you to take a look at that. He's also going to be a contributing writer as well to D1Baseball.com. They do a terrific job. And Mike Rooney is also going to be contributing with them going forward as well. So thanks to Patrick for joining us and sharing some different things along the way. And we hope to have him back maybe on a consistent basis, because we both are sort of building what we're doing here in 2020, and we have similar paths. Tomorrow is going to be Thursday. I've got to think about that in my head for a moment. But tomorrow, going to welcome in former big leaguer, played his college baseball at Nebraska, came up through the Royals system, and got to the big leagues with the Royals in the early 2000s. Ken Harvey is going to join us tomorrow, noon Eastern, on our Lennox on Baseball live stream podcast. Ken was with the Wilmington Blue Rocks in the Carolina League when I was there in 2001, and that was a team that was absolutely loaded with talent, including Angel Barroa at shortstop. Ken was at first base, and both received promotees. And Ken is now involved, and I recently connected with him, and he's involved in the game of baseball. He works with the Future Stars series, and it's great to see that he is involved. He's slowly built himself up in terms of what he's been able to do. He's a great hitter in the minors, great hitter at the big league level with Kansas City Royals during his time in the big leagues in the 2000s. But Ken Harvey is going to join us noon Eastern on Thursday, and we're working on another guest for Friday as well. Enjoy your day, everyone. Stay sane. And as always, we thank you for all of your support with our Lennox on Baseball live stream podcast. We will talk soon.